Hey, this week on This Is Gravel, you see that little card right there? You've got the questions, we've got the answers. See you soon. Hey, and welcome to This Is Gravel. You are going to be seeing the Q&A episode, which is always one of my favorite episodes.
I always love talking about the questions we get.
I love just hearing myself talk.
Makes sense.
You're supposed to say, I also love hearing you talk.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. It makes sense because I love hearing you talk.
Okay,
No,
perfect. Neil, what's been going on? What you've been doing? What's happening in your life?
I don't know. Why don't you just tell me what you've been doing because I want to hear you talk first.
Seriously?
Yes.
Oh, that's so polite of you. Well, if you watch the monitor, you can actually see the green of my eyes as I talk. Yeah. It's kind of hard when we're sitting here because I'm talking like this, but if you look up there, you can see it. Okay, I've been drinking a lot of coffee, a lot of Red Bull. Just been recently helping out with an Emporia on November 4th. Very excited about the Emporia Freedom Fest, which obviously we've had for quite a few years. This year I get to step into a little bit, and if you have been inundated with shares and like requests for Emporia Freedom Fest website, Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, you can blame me. I'm excited about it. I want to see it grow, and it's a great organization that's behind it. It's great for Emporia. It's not a race. It's a bring your family out. There's a spur challenge that goes along with it. Have you heard of the spur challenge?
I have.
Spur challenge is a 5K run, 40-mile ride, and then you have a skill set challenge after it, which you get to haul like dummy bags and all kinds of stuff, a little challenge event kind of thing, and you get your spurs afterwards. So it's a cool event. So I've been really hyped up and focused on that, and then focused on fall riding. Yourself?
Been hanging out, basically riding with my wife and daughter. That's what it's been all about. Family riding. Gravel Worlds was kind of one of my last big races. I might sprinkle in some here in the fall. But riding with the family, having a good time. My daughter loves riding to school every single day, so she wakes up early, says, Dad, let's get on the bike and go. And frankly, I'd rather go to school.
Does she ride to school every day?
Oh, yeah, every day.
How far away are you from school?
Less than a mile.
Oh, that's perfect.
It's pretty close.
That's perfect.
We get there pretty quickly.
She goes to Walnut Elementary School.
Yeah.
Okay,
so get there quickly, lock it up, and then get back home.
Yeah, very cool. Did a lot of kids ride the bike to school, or is that something
you see usually about 6 to 8 bikes, at least at this time of the year. Once spring comes, last spring, almost every spot in the thing was held, with
that's perfect.
Bikes. So, yeah, probably about 15, 20 bikes at that point.
Okay. But, I'd like to see that grow. I know my daughter goes to Timmerman Elementary School. My youngest goes to Timmerman Elementary School. And there's like 5 bikes. It's a big school.
Yeah.
Granted, it's in the corner of town, so there's a lot of houses that's not surrounded, like Walnut's surrounded. But
there's a few more hills to get to.
And there's a few more hills at Timmerman. Yeah, I get it. But it'll be nice to watch that grow as we get more. I know the high school is getting more involved in cycling here in town. So as all of that starts to grow and build, it'll be fun to watch that trickle down. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's a Q&A episode, as we said, which means you get to hear us talk a lot. You want to ask the first question?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so this one here came from our email. Do you think using Surly's dingle cogs on a single speed is in fact single speed?
It actually says from our email. I like that.
Yes.
That way, just in case you're wondering where it came from, it came from our email. Is a dingle cog a single speed? No, a dingle cog is by very definition, it's 2 speeds. So absolutely not. A dingle cog does serve a great purpose in life. If you're on a commuter bike, obviously, if you're on a long just ride and you'd like to have a couple gears, but you don't want to set up a whole gear drivetrain, I get it. No, a single speed is a single speed. You pick the gearing, you study the course, you look over the elevation, you take some risks, you take some gambles, and you go with the gearing that you've selected for the race. No, I'm not sure. No.
The question I think came up based around last week's conversation about gravel worlds and me being on the single speed. And so, I can't say for a race that I could look at it and say, okay, I'm going to sign up for single speed gravel worlds and then throw one of these on the back.
Sure.
And consider myself single speed. Would have extra gears been wonderful?
Sure, they would have been nice to have.
Man, that would have been awesome.
Would have been nice to have.
But I would have then, by definition, not been a single speed. I would not have been riding 4220 like I was. I would have had the option to go back and forth. I think it's a 1721 is how they have it set up. So no, it's not a single speed. It's silly, I would say, to even do that. I know that some promoters have run into that in the past with some people. If they could use things like this as a single speed, you are not in a single speed.
Right.
You have two.
You can still switch gears. It's a very slow process to shift gears.
Yeah, you got to jump off your bike with that. You got to, probably use their singulator to move back and forth.
Right, tensioner. Yeah.
But no, you lose being a single speed the moment that there is the option to switch to something else. If I was going to do that, I might as well just have a 1x11 setup, 10,
and just pick a gear.
So it doesn't seem right to me.
Okay, very cool. Okay, question number 2 doesn't say where it's from, so we're just going to assume that it's from somewhere.
Maybe I'm
going to say it's snail mail. I bet somebody actually typed this out, hand wrote this out and sent this to us. Let's go with that. We haven't gotten cookies in the mail in a long time. We used to get cookies in the mail. Could we have some cookies? I would love some cookies. Snickerdoodles would be preferable. What's your favorite cookie?
We will eat them while the show is going on. Any kind of good chocolate chip, but no nuts. I'm allergic. Let's not have
and undercooked. You want them to be slightly undercooked so they're soft and gooey, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm sure there's a microwave around here somewhere so we can make them soft and gooey, but they're better when they come soft and gooey.
Send cookies.
All right, number 2. How do you stay excited? That wasn't a question, by the way. That was just something I wanted to throw in there. Okay, how do you stay excited about cycling late in the season?
Boy, usually it's pretty tough late in the season. I mean, goodness, you think of all the different races that you and me have done up to this point. And this past, a couple weeks ago, we really, went up to Gravel Worlds and had what I'd say is one of the tougher races of the year. Between the heat, between the elevation, the fact that it is 150 miles, where most of our races usually fall in the 100-mile range outside of Dirty Kansas. You get back, and I've just had to kind of change my focus at least a little bit here recently. Enjoy getting out with the wife. Going, we went yesterday. It was probably 25-mile-an-hour winds yesterday morning.
Yeah, it was steep.
And we got out and went for just a little ride.
Yeah.
And riding against the wind in any condition and any speed is good training for you. And then keeping it fun too. I don't feel as though I need to get out there every single training ride or every single group ride and say, okay, let's hammer it at 18 mile an hour, and see if I can make myself puke.
Yeah.
Build relationships on the bike. Don't just focus on let's haul as quick as we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I stay excited about cycling. It's easy for me because I'm always excited about cycling. I would say for me, it's more how do I stay focused on cycling because as things happen towards, I'm going to guess, late in the season would be the fall. Yeah. Kids starting back up school, that kind of stuff. So staying focused and I got quite a few friends who are migrating a little bit towards their interest towards disc golf, which I love. And Emporia is also obviously famous for disc golf. So I would say it's more just staying focused on cycling. I'm always excited about cycling.
Well, and this is a busy time of year, too. You think of all the holidays and everything that is coming up, not just kids going back to school. It's definitely easy to lose our focus.
Yeah, I mean, the one time this year I was lucky enough to get a text from producer Matt to go ride bikes with him. I was super, super stoked about it.
Only once?
Yeah, only once.
Sad.
And I'd be stoked if I ever got that again, So anyway, number 3.
All right. Thoughts on suspension on gravel bikes?
He's typing on his phone. I don't have my phone with me, producer Matt, so if you were sending him a text right now, it won't come across that way. But I like the thought. Okay.
All right. Number 3 again.
Number 3. Sorry.
Thoughts on suspension on gravel bikes.
Okay.
By the way, that text actually was for me to go for a ride. Sorry, Bobby.
Suspension on gravel bikes is, it can or cannot be a whole can of worms. I enjoy, obviously suspension on gravel bikes is becoming more and more talked about. Almost every brand now is coming out with some form of suspension on their bike that happens to be used for gravel. Is that a good way to put that? Mm-hmm. Okay. I would say that, I'm in favor of anything that makes my 100 to 200 mile rides, which is normally what I ride. I'm not a 350er yet. But anything that makes us a little bit more comfortable later in the ride, then I'm for. I'm not such a purist that I need to ride a single speed, stiff, beat up your shoulders, old 10 speed, just to say that. Not 10 speeds, can't be a single speed. You got what I'm saying? Old bike, just to say that I'm tough enough to do it. Dude, it hurts. I'm old. I heal slowly. I want to ride again in another week. So a little bit of added suspension is a good thing. Can they go overboard with it? Sure, but it doesn't mean you have to buy the bike. Buy what's comfortable for you to ride. I do ride the Loft Fork. I really enjoy the Loft Fork. I've ridden it for 2 years on my Warbird, which in itself has a little suspension built into, how they do the rear triangle with the chain stays and everything. So, yes, I'm glad that it's coming about. I'm curious about the new innovations that are coming out. Niner just released a gravel bike that has, I think it's got a little Fox fork on the front that's got, is it 40 millimeters or 50 millimeters of travel? I'll look it up. But yeah, more and more companies are coming out with new things.
Yeah, I have no problem with obviously throwing some suspension on as well. Something like the Loft Fork, I would think would be about my personal limits.
On the front?
On the front,
What about rear?
Gosh, I don't like the idea of having a full suspension or rear suspension, obviously, besides the little things, like you mentioned, with the Warbird that are kind of built in. But actually having, like, say, what we've seen with Niner, where it's, got a mechanism back there that, gosh, gravel's a mess. And you've been around here, with all the dust, not having a lot of rain this summer. I can imagine what the dust might do to some of those pieces.
Yeah.
Maybe they've come up with a way to control that. But I look at, like you say, the Loft Fork, and boy, it seems to hold up.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything negative really from anybody that runs it. And then the few times that I've been able to ride a Loft, gosh, man, what that does for my shoulders is fantastic.
I think we also know the need to take a small step back on this question, though, and admit and realize that we live in a Midwest gravel region. Yep. What people call gravel really is just off-road riding, off-road racing. That is not specifically single track, not specifically asphalt. Mixed. You've heard mixed terrain. You've heard so. Depending on where you live at and what type of gravel off-season or off-road event you do, you may need more suspension. The newest trendy thing right now is dropper posts that are kind of starting to come off on a lot of models. I would never in my wildest dreams think that I need a dropper post on my gravel bike. But if you mix in a lot of single track on a race, which some of the races are starting to mix in 5 to 10 to 14 miles of single track. Producer Matt's sticking his finger at me over there.
I'll say you're right with talking about the gravel roads. Our gravel roads are so different than everywhere else in the world. Because like where we bike-packed out in Colorado, you'll see in the video, that was sold to me as a gravel road, 2-track, so I was expecting similar things to like here in the Flint Hills.
Right.
But we get out there and it is chunky, football-sized rock. So, out there we would have loved to have like a Fox fork on the front of our bike-packing rig. So I think it just matters what your gravel is in your location.
Right, I agree, and so I agree. Sometimes I reach from my own personal experiences first, and that's here. And we have some great roads. And the Flint Hills are choppy, but I still wouldn't consider using a dropper post in the Flint Hills.
And where 90% of our riding is done here, that's the way obviously we'd view it. But yeah, to Matt's point, you ride gravel in other places. There are definitely some good options out there.
Right. Absolutely. So absolutely. Okay. So moving on to
number 4.
What do you do during the gravel off season?
What's an off season, Bobby?
What is an off season?
I'm not sure by that question.
Okay, you want to answer it or you want me to answer it?
Well, yeah. First of all, I don't.
What do you do during the gravel off season?
I don't view as there is an off season. The fact is,
take it for the approach that it was probably the question was, very honest, open question about what do you do during the end of the year. But
those times, say October, November, December, maybe even January, even though the reality is, at least around here, there are races going on throughout all of that. And even you go up north and you got Spotted Horse in October, and then you go down south and in January there's races going on in the gravel, scene in Texas in January. But off-season wise, my rides might, tick back a little bit. This year I'm throwing in some running. I decided that why not run a half marathon, because that seems cool. The training, by the way, is brutal. Running is so tough.
You could maybe talk me into roller skating because it still has wheels on the bottom of your feet. But running or walking just sounds very painful.
Yeah, it hasn't been too bad, but I'm giving that a try, maybe as a way to kind of keep my fitness up, because I do notice at times I don't really want to go out for a 30-mile ride in the winter. This past winter, I did a lot of winter riding. But again, for me, the off season, it doesn't really exist. Ride your bike, man. Get out and ride.
Right. And there's two ways to look at it. There's not exactly for events. This kind of relates back to what we talked about earlier. If you're excited about cycling, you're always going to ride your bike. There is no season. You just ride your bike. We do have the older mentality here in the Midwest, and I'm prone to this because I just picked up a bike like 7 years ago, and 7 years ago, well, not even 7 years ago, more recent than that, but my season was land run,
Dirty Kansas,
to gravel worlds, right?
I say Dirty Kansas because I've heard even some people say that's
and
the end of the season.
Well, and you get that too. I think that's a local effect, though. I think it's more of a local effect. As a local effect, the town and the energy builds up to Dirty Kansas, which is June, and then post Dirty Kansas, school's out, family vacations, you go into fall, blah blah blah. But that could be. I mean, when even 4 or 5 years ago, it was up to gravel worlds and then done, and then everyone hops on a trail bike and you ride trails through the winter.
Yeah.
But gravel has become so popular that you can do events year round. Yeah. And if you don't mind traveling a little bit, you can do big events year round. There's all kinds of local races that are 30 miles, 40 miles in the dead of winter just to get you out on your bike. But if you want to travel down to Arizona, I mean, there's races year round if you want to go to a race or an event year round. Yeah. And so really, there is no true off season anymore. If I were to say what would I do during that time 3 years ago, then I would say I'd hop on a trail bike and I'd ride some trails. You do ice cream runs with ice cream bike rides and that kind of stuff, and maybe take the emphasis away from riding hard and maybe a little more fun with friends. Yeah. Build those relationships like we talked about earlier with staying excited. So I get the question, I understand the question, but really anymore it's crazy enough that you can do whatever you want to do all year round. So,
and the thing is too, I would say, I know we talked about this probably back in the spring, but when you take that winter off, and you do see an off season, boy, it's tough come February, March to get yourself back ready for land runs. Right,
and that used to be that was the big kicker, was land run started off the season, right? Well, most of us would, I'll sign up for this and I'll get started riding more, blah blah blah. But it's cold, so by the the end of February, you're like, oh crap, I got a 100-mile race coming up, and so we would all die at land run, and then that would be the emphasis of, oh man, now I got DK coming up, I better really start riding, and so that would actually kick off. So land run was always super painful, and now you see a lot more people just riding through the year, and land run's still super painful, but you feel you
never going to change,
right? But you end that pain a little bit quicker. So okay,
all right, number 5, our final question: should I train? What are your thoughts on training, Bobby?
Like a locomotive train?
Yes.
You should definitely ride trains. Train riding is really good. Producer Matt's been on a train here recently. Oh, yeah. Now, should I train? That's a loaded question. Okay. So I recently got done in the last, I took a year and trained with CTS, Carmichael Training Systems, David Sheik, trained me for the past year. The reason that started was last year I kind of dabbled in training with Leland Danes and DK here in town, and I enjoyed I'm not a podium seeker, but I really did enjoy the added focus that it gave to my rides. I did used to be a data analyst. I love numbers. When you train, it's all about the numbers. And so adding numbers to my ride did help me focus and get me more excited to go out and ride more consistently. Okay, so this year was even better. David watched out for me more. He helped me out more. He made sure that I wasn't, let's say, overtraining and that kind of thing. Not that Leland did a wonderful job, but this year I had a dedicated trainer for the full year. And that did help me out for the full year. It did keep me focused for the full year. I will say this on the should I train thing. If you have a specific goal in mind, then you should figure out a plan to consistently ride more towards that plan. Whether that means self-motivation and learning how to do that yourself, or whether it means hiring a trainer. If you want to complete a goal and you need to consistently plan and ride towards that goal, then training can be helpful. Is that a good way to put that?
Yeah.
Okay. Structured training can be helpful. Okay. Your thoughts?
Oh, you know me. I don't have much structure into my training. Right. It's get out and ride my bike.
Right.
But to your point, yeah, if I was saying, okay, this is what I want to hit, or this is where I want to be, or what I want to do, there are huge benefits, obviously, in having a trainer, somebody coaching you through this.
Right.
Because the reality is I don't maybe know what numbers to look at,
sure,
or what numbers to shoot for. And so, when I go out and ride, some days if I want to ride hard, that's what I go for. And I just go out and I ride my bike hard. Other days, if I just want to go and just hit some miles, I just hit some miles. But I know that numerous people that have had coaches or trainers, you see that jump. Mm-hmm. And so if you're looking for a jump, if you're looking for
right.
a big improvement, if you're looking to say, last year I just struggled to cross the line at DK, mm-hmm. or, I don't even know if I can get up to finishing 200 miles. Having somebody that is going to be there, that is going to coach you through the year, that is going to motivate you, encourage you, stay on top of you, mm-hmm. to make sure that you're not sitting on the couch as opposed to sitting on your saddle. Right. Perfect. Absolutely. I mean, just again, from the conversations that I've had with you or with other individuals that have coaches, it's the way to go.
Right.
If you feel like, like I do, like I can go out there and I could ride 200 miles, right. Bad conditions, high wind, single speed. Sure. I'll go out there and finish the 200 one way or another.
And you can finish it, 'cause you know how to finish.
Yeah.
So you can finish it.
And I'm not going out there. Again, I'm not going to try to get on a podium, single speed at dirty cans. I'm not finishing that fast. But just simply going out there and saying, I've got the base. I know I've got that base. For me, I just like to go and ride.
Yeah,
have some
absolutely.
fun. I feel like if I did hire on a trainer, which I honestly have thought about at times,
mm-hmm.
it might make me almost hate it more because I'd be pushing to limits that might make me uncomfortable. Having said that, I could also look at it and say, wow, this benefit's huge. I love this.
Sure.
I like being able to keep up with Bobby and maybe even #beat Bobby. But
I like that trended this year somehow. That was like spiraled out of control.
But I don't think I'm there by any means right now. Yeah. But granted, if I hired somebody like David or Leland or someone else to keep on top of me, I definitely think I'd see the improvements.
Yeah, I agree. It's all about what that goal is. And, if the goal is just to get incrementally better every year, just ride your bike more. You're going to get there. You're going to develop those legs. But if you're late to the game, like I was late to the game, and didn't start riding bikes.
And we're not getting any younger.
Right, we're not getting any younger. And my goal 2 years ago was to race the sun at DK and beat the sun. And this definitely probably progressed that by 4 or 5 years for me to be able to do that. So, yeah, absolutely. Training is a good thing. Training can definitely be helpful. So, most importantly, ride your bikes, have fun on the bikes, and don't get caught up too much in trying to reach the goal. Just have fun getting there sometimes. That's all we got. We don't have any more questions this week.
That's all the questions, but I think Matt might have some social media, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I love our social media.
Can't forget about that. Pictures are always, I know, rolling in, so I know we'd love to see what you guys have been up to.
We asked for a specific thing last week, and we did get some on different types of food that people ate. I liked that. If you're utilizing suspension on your bike, or you've been on a ride lately that you feel could have used suspension, I'd be really curious to see those pictures next week. Show us some of the environments that you would consider a gravel event, but would definitely be a lot harsher on the bike. So let's see what he brought in from last week.
Hey, thanks Bobby and Neil. I always love the Q&A episodes. Let's take a look at this week's social media. Donald sent in this photo. He was up racing the dam the day across Minnesota. Derek sent in this gorgeous sunrise photo from Peculiar, Missouri. John sent in this photo from the Mount Lemmon Highway. Said it's a very beautiful ride and very challenging. This is a technical gravel ride and the bike choice conversation is never ending. Says he absolutely loves it. Chris was up at the Ochoco Gravel Roubaix. Kevin Burke went from Lincoln to Marysville to Lincoln via the Homestead Trail rail grade. 150 miles round trip and a beautiful ride. Tim went to the Vermont Overland Gravel Race, said it's phenomenal. 43 miles with 5,700 feet of vertical through the Green Mountains of Vermont. Glenn was out doing some recon for the upcoming Pony Express ride. Jason was out on his first gravel bike, says he's really been missing out in northeast Arkansas. Natasha was at the Grit Gravel Grind in El Dorado, Kansas. Amy was out riding Little Egypt Road outside Alta Vista, Kansas. Gorgeous area up there in Wabaunsee County. Mario sent in this photo from Portugal. Said he got in 70 kilometers with 20 kilometers of hard mountain biking on the way back. Thanks again to everybody that submitted photos using the hashtag #ThisIsGravel and on our Facebook page.
Awesome. Sweet, guys. Thanks for those pictures. We love seeing where you guys are riding. Always send us good stuff. If you got something that needs full suspension, like Bobby mentioned earlier, send us those as well. We like seeing those gnarly roads.
Perfect. See y'all next week.